It is one of the most important occasions in India's long and troubled journey with defence production. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today flagged off and inaugurated what is essentially the Indian private sector's first ever manufacturing facility for military aircraft. That's right. This picture here may be just one picture in one frame, but the Prime Minister of India, along with his Spanish counterpart, has basically lifted the veil of a facility that goes down in history as breaking the monopoly of India's state-owned institutions like HAL and the defence public sector undertakings. And for the first time, the private sector, which has been yearning for a chance to build weapons, aircraft and hardware for the Indian military, has finally got that chance. Take a look at this report of the big milestone inauguration of the Indian C-295 factory. A milestone for Make in India in defence and aerospace. A flagship beacon for the future of defence production in India. And the country's first private sector facility building aircraft for the military. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his visiting Spanish counterpart presided over the inauguration of the final assembly line of the Made in India Airbus C-295 military transport aircraft, a joint venture between Tata and the European aerospace giant. Under this contract, while Airbus will deliver 16 fully built aircraft from its Spanish facility, the remaining 40 will be built here in Vadodara, with full aircraft rolling out of this line inaugurated by the leaders of the two countries.
हम भारत और स्पेन की पार्टनरशिप को नई दिशा दे रहे हैं. हम C-295 ट्रांसपोर्ट एयरक्राफ्ट के प्रोडक्शन की फैक्ट्री का शुभारंभ कर रहे हैं. आज अक्टूबर महीने में ही ये फैक्ट्री अब एयरक्राफ्ट के प्रोडक्शन के लिए तैयार है.
In 2026, the first C-295 manufactured in India will produce by this plant in Vadodara. This aircraft, it is a symbol of the Spanish and European aeronautical industry. In addition to contributing to modernizing India's defense capabilities, it will also drive technological development, particularly for the state of Gujarat, India's leading manufacturing hub.
Providing a major boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat, the inauguration comes 3 years after the Indian Air Force signed up for the C-295 to replace legacy British Avro transport aircraft in service.
Inaugural landing of the Indian Air Force aircraft C-295.
Of the 16 to be delivered from Spain, 6 have already been delivered to the Indian Air Force. A C-295 recently made a debut landing in public at the new airport in Navi Mumbai as well. In service with 36 countries and their militaries, the C-295 is a versatile tactical transport aircraft capable of rapid operations and can carry 73 fully armed troops of 48 Special Forces paratroopers. It can be converted for all manner of operations, including medical evacuation, humanitarian relief operations, surveillance missions, and even low-altitude delivery in hostile airspace. The inauguration in Vadodara comes days after the demise of Ratan Tata, under whose leadership the Tata Group's foray into defence took place.
It is a historic moment not only for the Tata Group, but also for India, and this project embraces the true Atmanirbhar vision of our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. Made in India aircraft, where the aircraft parts manufacturing as well as the full assembly of the aircraft and the integration is being done for the first time in India by private sector.
The Make in India C-295 program has become an industrial benchmark, which is aligned to the Prime Minister Modi's vision of self-reliance or Atma Nirbharat Bharat. With the C295 program, not only Tata and Airbus will assemble 40 aircraft here in this state-of-the-art final assembly in Vadodara, but we will also manufacture all sections and 13,000 of the total of 14,000 detailed parts of the aircraft here in India.
The first made-in-India C295 will roll out of the Vadodara facility in September 2026, and production here will ramp up to deliver 40 aircraft to the Indian Air Force by August 2031. India has become the largest customer for the C295, with the acquisition of 56 aircraft in total. The C295 Make in India program will produce more than 85% structural and final assembly of 40 aircraft, along with the manufacturing of 13,000 detailed parts in India, for which 21 special processes have been certified and 37 India-based suppliers, both from the private and public sectors, have been enlisted. This means a huge number of aerospace manufacturing jobs and high skill set employment. Beyond the 56 aircraft for the Indian Air Force, the facility is certain to receive orders from the Indian Navy and internal security agencies, in addition to civil aviation carriers. With Brajesh Doshi in Vadodara, Gujarat, Bureau Report, India Today. And a little over a year ago, in fact, in July 2023, I happened to be in Spain, where the first 16 of these aircraft are being built by Airbus at its own facility in Spain and delivering them to the Indian Air Force. 6 of those aircraft have already been delivered. Another 10 will be coming, and the remaining 40 will be built at this facility that's been opened today by Prime Minister Modi. Take a look at this ground report where I got up close with the first C295 for the Indian Air Force. This is July last year. We're here in Sevilla in Spain at an Airbus assembly facility to see something that Indian journalists are seeing for the first time. That is the first C295 aircraft for the Indian Air Force. This aircraft is the first one that's been built by Airbus, a part of 16 such aircraft that are going to be built at this sprawling facility and delivered very soon. This particular aircraft is going to be delivered in just the next few weeks to the Indian Air Force, after which 15 more such aircraft will be built at this precise facility in Sevilla in Spain for delivery to the Indian Air Force. So I'm walking around the aircraft. It's a first look at C295 number 1 for the Indian Air Force. It's going to be fulfilling a long-standing need that's been felt by the Indian Air Force for over a decade. It was a requirement to replace the old vintage British HS-748 Avro aircraft. I'm walking around the first C295 now under the tail area of this aircraft. The important thing about the C295, remember, isn't the fact that the first 16 are going to be built here in Spain. And here on India Today, we've gotten first access to the aircraft also because something very important is taking place back in India. 16 of these aircraft are going to be built here in Spain, but the other 40, as many of you will know if you've been watching India Today and my show, is that the other 40 are going to be built in Vadodara at a Tata facility. These aircraft will have their technology transferred by Airbus to their partner Tata, and then Tata becomes the first Indian private sector company to build military aircraft for the Indian Armed Forces. The Indian Air Force operates aircraft like the AN-32. The Avros, of course, are being phased out, but these aircraft are going to be fulfilling an extremely crucial need. Remember, the Air Force operates aircraft for many different things, but its transport aircraft are crucial because India is geographically large. We've got all kinds of terrain. This particular aircraft is capable of landing on unprepared surfaces. It's designed for operations of high altitude areas, which is a particularly difficult thing, in aviation because of the thin atmosphere and the various other challenges. And remember, India has important, crucial air bases at high altitude, whether it is Leh, whether it is Thois, the world's highest military airfield which is Daulat Beg Oldi, is also in India, and the aircraft of this kind has been proven to be able to operate from such forbidding locations. Now, 56 aircraft of this kind will be built for the Indian Air Force. That number might go up because the Indian Air Force, apart from replacing its old Avros, also has to replace over 100 AN-32 aircraft. And AN-32s, remember, are of Ukrainian origin. Great aircraft, they're workhorses of the Indian Air Force, but they are also aging and will need to be replaced by new generation transport aircraft of the kind that the C-295 is. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen, but with an Indian factory churning out these aircraft between now and 2031, it stands to reason that this very same aircraft should actually replace the AN-32. Apart from the Indian Air Force's own requirement, this is a very versatile aircraft in the sense it's not just a transport aircraft. Look at it as a bit of a Swiss Army knife. It depends on what you put into it. You can sling on a maritime radar, it becomes a maritime patrol aircraft. Very much like what the Indian Navy and the Indian Coast Guard are looking at. About 15 aircraft in total is what they're looking at. It can be used for land surveillance if you put on the right kind of sensor. The Border Security Force is looking for that kind of capability. If you add passenger seats, you can convert it into a short-haul regional airliner. India needs many hundreds of those kind of thing. If you add anti-submarine sensors and a torpedo capability, it can become an anti-submarine aircraft. If you put a radar on its back, it can become an airborne early warning platform. So what I mean is it's very modular. It depends on what you want to do with the aircraft, and it can be used for all these different kinds of purposes. So if you have a production line for the C-295 in India, it becomes something very useful for India's different and very disparate needs across different terrains. So it's historic in all kinds of ways because the C-295 not only fulfills all these needs but gives India an aircraft manufacturing capability in the private sector which has never been there before. Airbus has had a long relationship with India, but this is for the first time that such an ambitious and landmark project is being executed. 56 of these aircraft being built 100%, almost 100% in India by the end of the entire program. In Sevilla, Spain, this is Shiv Arur for India Today.